What's up, y'all? Hope you guys are having a great Wednesday so far. Man, excited to jump into 1 Peter, continue our journey this week. And real quick, just to look back, Chuck had left it off. Just really, what is the church? And this church that's built around Jesus, the cornerstone. He is our rock. He is our foundation. And we are stones in that building. And, one thing that Chuck had said that we're going to touch on a little bit today is this idea of being a priest. This idea of being a priest, as Chuck had mentioned, God ordained one of the tribes of Israel, the tribe of Levi, to be priests, the Levitical priests. And this idea of priest, we kind of lose some context, right? Because not all of us are Jewish. Those with a Catholic background might be thinking of their priest. But really, the role of a priest back then was a significant role, right? The priestess who would do all of the sacrifices, especially on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the sacrifice to bridge the gap between the people and God, to atone for the sins. The priest was the one that was sacrificing the animals. Only the priest could go into the inner Holy of Holies in the temple. Only the priest can really talk to God. The priesthood, to be a priest, was a big deal. And so what's interesting, we're going to pick things up in verse 9 where Peter writes, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." What Peter's saying, all of a sudden you're a chosen race, that God chose us for a purpose. What he's doing is giving us a role description essentially right now. And this is interesting because 1 Peter was written to Jews that were dispersed, right, because of persecution. And so all of a sudden Peter's calling them priests. That's kind of crazy. They're thinking, what are you talking about, Peter? But here's the point. What Peter's saying is you got a job to do. You got a job to do. And that job is to proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness. You know what? It's not just about Jesus' sacrifice on the cross to pay for our sins so we can go to heaven. It's a lot more than that. It's a lot more than that, that because of the cross that we are made clean, that we are made new. And because of that, we get to proclaim his excellencies. You see, God's people from the beginning of time were created to point back to the Creator. Right? Adam and Eve were designed, they were created to care and steward this earth and point back to the Creator. But here's what happened. They sinned and messed up. And so God all along the way has been fixing that mess up in this story that we're a part of even today. And so all throughout, when God's people, when he chose his people and called them Israel, Israel's intent was to be a signpost, to point to God, to be different. And so just like the priests were separated, they were set apart, we are set apart. We are called to be different. We're not called to be like everyone else. We're called to stand apart and point to the Creator. It's like that ocean that's behind me right now. I don't know about y'all, but when I see that ocean, I am instantly reminded of how big our God is. Because even if you don't believe in God, even if you don't believe in Jesus, you cannot look at that ocean and think, okay, there's something bigger than me out there, right? I know there are people that think, oh, it's a random explosion. There's all kinds of theology, and I don't want to argue with it. So, just shoot me an email or whatever. But when I see that ocean, I think, man, God is really big. And you know what else I think? I think that he's really good to allow me to enjoy that, to allow us to enjoy that. That ocean points to God. When I see that ocean, I think straight of God. And that's what Peter's saying to the Jews that were dispersed, that when people see you, they need to see God. That we are to point to this amazing God, this Creator that created all of us. And so if I could encourage y'all today, let's proclaim the excellencies of him who called us out of darkness. Let's proclaim his love. Let's do that by how we live our lives. That when people see us, they see God's work in our lives. Not because we have to, but because of what he's done for us. We get to proclaim that goodness to a world that is desperate to see it. Everyone, thank you so much for spending a few minutes today. I hope y'all are doing well. It looks like we're on the tail end of this. Hey, start praying, continue praying for IndyCar, for all the teams, the crews, everybody around the world that's a part of IndyCar. You know, some of the effects of this shutdown has really started to trickle in, but hey, the way it sounds, we're getting ready to go racing soon. And so be in prayer for us that we can really proclaim the excellencies of him who called us out of darkness. Everyone have a wonderful day. We'll see you back next week.